Okay, so hi guys, and today we're going to make a video because somebody asked me a question. It's actually a very good question because there's a lot of bad information going on about this topic. And let's see if I can find the actual thing. Basically, he asked me what I knew about the dark web or the deep web, one of those terms, and then I said, well, it depends on what you mean, blah, 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 and he tagged me in a link that he was talking about, so I guess he wanted me to explain. So, that being said, here's the link we have right here, and it says, undercover researcher infiltrates the deep web, and this is what she finds. Now, this right here is almost an accurate description until it gets up to this right here. The deep web is mostly used by pedophiles. It even describes the dark web as being an encrypted network that exists between Tor servers. And so then it goes on to say that the deep web is mostly used by pedophiles. And if you scroll down, it goes on to say that they use Tor and their special invite-only Tor site communities to whatever the fuck. Basically, though, I find it funny. First of all, it's from a non-news.co, right? That's our first red flag right there, because there's almost like a cult following going with people. There's like basically three levels of people when it comes to anonymous. There's people who understand what's really going on, and then there's two different types of people who don't understand what's going on. There's people who don't understand what's going on to the extent of the other people who don't understand what's going on believe that these people are somehow part of this group that doesn't exist. And they use sites like this, which are effectively, I'm noticing that the article cites itself as cracked.com, which also I fucking hate. But aside from that, so odds are somebody just took this content and they probably JavaScript referenced it from another site, and they didn't even hard code it into this site. Odds are it's just being ripped directly from another site, just to be posted here to gather links. It's called clickbait. So anyway, we're going to cover some internet basics today, and the first thing is that you got to understand the old way that the internet used to work. And when I say that, I mean the internet, it used to be literally the same thing as the phone system. And more or less, I mean, and I don't even know all the exacts on it, and I'm pretty tech-oriented myself, but I wasn't alive back then, so I really don't know. But I know that there were effectively, like the super old modems, you had to take the phone off the hook and stick the phone speaker into the thing so that the computer could hear the sounds. A lot of people have used what's the word? I don't even remember. Dial-up modems before, like AOL back in the day. And so you've heard the phone call, dial in, and make all that fucking noises. And so, yeah, those are, I mean, literally the computer talking to other computers, to make it simple. So, before that happened, you had to, literally, if you wanted to go to a site or, say, access information, because I guess the concept of websites didn't exist back then either, you had to know first of all, the person who had it, that they had a computer that it was stored on, and then you also had to know that there was a phone line hooked to that computer, and you had to know the phone number for said phone line. And so what you would do is you would dial, you would tell the computer to dial out on the phone line, and basically it would dial with a special ring that would, you know, it wouldn't ring the phone in the house. It would say, hey, computers that are here, there's a computer trying to call, and they would answer, you know, because it was just how we were set up. And basically what somebody figured out was that, you know, there was no second question. They would just, you would get right in. And so what ends up happening is it doesn't have any problem for me, because the only person who knows my phone number is my friends, and they don't want to destroy my computer or anything. But the people who began to have problems with it were stuff like the phone company, you know, organizations that have a customer service line that at that point was being dictated and operated by computer systems that were switching the tellers over and stuff, whatever. And so you got people who figured out cleverly that if they called in on the same number, they could get into the computer. And so what you had come from that was something called the DNS, or the Domain Name Service System. And what the DNS does is it takes your phone number out of the equation and replaces it with the domain name that many people are already familiar with. Google.com, I'm pretty sure, is widely regarded as the most popular domain in existence. And so basically what it is it's basically like a phone book that only your computer has access through, or has access to through the internet protocols. And so so what happens is now you no longer put the phone number in for Google to get to where you want to go. You tell it that you want to go to Google, and your computer checks the DNS for what the phone number for Google is, and then goes there without ever telling you, more or less. So everybody's heard of servers, and the way servers work, I mean, it's literally just another computer that's sitting there that has no other purpose other than to serve. So what does it mean to serve? Well, when you type a web address into the address bar and you press enter, you send something called a request, first to the DNS system, and then to whatever the server is that you're trying to get to after the DNS resolves as, you know. You might sometimes see things that say, like, request timed out, you know, failed. You'll see a lot of words, but basically what it might mean is that the domain that you just asked for doesn't exist, and so when they went to look it up, they couldn't find it. And that's if you have a domain problem. If the domain does exist, and then the site still doesn't come up, that means that the site server is down. And so in order to understand serving, what you got to understand is pings. Pings is really, really simple. It's a really small piece of data, and it basically makes the internet work just like your two-way walkie-talkie radios that you buy from the dollar store when you were a kid. They would only work for 30 feet away and shit. And if you ever had a set of those, I'm sure you noticed that if the other person was talking and you pressed your talk button, you can't hear them. And that's because your channel is only open one way at any given time. Now, the internet doesn't technically work like this, but for all intents and purposes, you can think of it that way. Is that if you're trying to send information while the other person is trying to send information, and neither of you are in receive mode, then what happens is neither of you gets the information. It times out, and that is to say that your computer is programmed to do two things. It is programmed to ping, and it is programmed to count. So the first thing is you type google.com and you press enter. Your computer now sends a ping to google.com and says, hey google.com, I want the website. You want to send that over anytime? Cool. And it waits, and if it doesn't get something back from google.com, then you'll get a screen that says your request timed out. Or what that means is the computer was able to count past its maximum value before the data was served to you, and so the computer is not going to wait all day on it. Is basically what it's trying to tell you. If you want it again, you're going to have to try it again because we're done waiting at this point. So, that being said, once you type your web address, you hit enter. If everything goes right, your ping goes to them. They now are aware that you want to receive the site. So they send you back a ping that says, hey, we got your ping. We are sending the site now. You send them back a ping that says, okay, I got that ping, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how they send you the site, and that's how the system makes sure that it's only transmitting one way or the other, and it keeps data from going out from getting confused with data that's going in. It uses a system of pings to tell the next system what is on the way, i.e., here's that website you asked for, and then after the ping is received by my system, it knows to begin receiving and rendering the website in my web browser. Now, all of that long-winded ass shit was so that you could understand the concept of search engine optimization. So search engine optimization, if I go to my screen here, and go clicky, and I'll get rid of that, and I'll bring up this. This is our article that we're looking at. Full of shit people talking about stuff they don't know about. And so we'll go to any website, and I'd like one that has good static content, but I can't really think of one off the top. We'll just try GameStop.com. I think that seems like a pretty good one. Okay, so if you go to any website in almost any browser, I can't say for sure any browser, but I would assume any browser, it's most of the ones I've used, and you right-click anywhere in the page, you will see that the right-click menu comes up, and you find a option that says View Page Source. Source is a word that means the code that makes the bitch work. So, you'll notice that this code right here, you have something called the header tag. The header tag starts where you see this word head, and it ends where you see the word head again with a slash, which God knows where that actually is. They might not put it in for quite a while. But if you notice, for instance, this JavaScript, it starts right here where you see the word script, and the word script technically ends on the other side of the arrow here. So you can tell that it's a script. We've given it the type of text/JavaScript. Then everything inside of that is the script itself. So we're telling it we have a function that's going to ignore enter. It's going to take the variable code, and if I don't know what this operator means, the variable e equals window.event, blah, 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 the script runs, etc., and the script ends where it says less than /script greater than. And so, okay, here we have the beginning of our body tag. And so that means our head tag has to be before the beginning of our body tag, the end. Oh, so here it is. Here's our end header. So everything before this and up there where it says head, all of that is the head tag for the website. Now it actually looks like they're using the head tag to store some type of script that does something or other. I'm not really good at reading and interpreting scripts really fast on the fly. And I'm also not good at making impromptu videos either, so there's probably some shit I'm forgetting to mention, etc., etc., etc. So anyway, this is the header tag, and here's a big-ass script that they've got running in here. But typically, the header tag and also the title tag, which you don't technically have to use either, God knows if there actually is one in here, they are there for you to put down things for the, here we go, title. They are there to put down things for the web server to interpret that aren't, not the web server, the web browser to interpret that aren't necessarily seen by the user. So you'll notice that GameStop.com, some websites like Facebook, Facebook.com is the domain, and up here in the tab it says Facebook. But GameStop.com is GameStop.com, but it says up here video games, consoles, collectibles, etc. So if we look at the page source, you will be able to notice that it says that because that is defined right here in the title tag. Title tag starts right here, ends right here, and everything in between it is the title of the page that will be displayed up there in that tab. And so as you can see, video games, consoles, collectibles, and VR, GameStop is what the full string to be displayed in the tab is. Now, that's kind of useless, but I just feel like it helps people to begin to understand how it is that a website is actually running all the things that it does. So the reason that's important, and it does help understand, is because then you have something called search engine optimization. Search engine optimization used to be a much simpler process. Basically, it was the concept that you would add keywords that you want to be associated with your site into the header tag of the site that you are building. Meaning, you know, GameStop.com by itself would come up as GameStop.com. If you typed GameStop into Google or GameStop.com into Google, you would probably get GameStop.com. But what if somebody types video games into Google, or used video games into Google, or used Xbox One into Google? How do you make it go to your site instead of your competitor's site? Well, the answer to that is to properly index. If you properly index, or no, to properly optimize. Indexing is what search engines do, and basically that means that every so often they literally go to every single site on the internet and they look at the codes of it and they decide what parts of it are relevant and where they should come up when people search for things. And so if you tagged your site with the keyword video games or used Xbox One, for instance, then when somebody comes up and types that into their Google, provided that no one else has copied your exact keywording strategy, then you'll be the only one that comes up. Or the one that comes up first on top, which everyone knows that's the one we click. So the issue to get to the disambiguation, the whole reason we started the video, that's a whole bunch of prior knowledge to take in. You have 3 concepts, really only 2 when it comes down to it, and once you simplify it to that, it's really only 1. It's the concept of the network, which I basically gave explanation. No, that's the long-winded explanation was for how just a general network works. It works just like two-way radios. If there's not some type of system that lets me know not to talk while you're talking, neither one of us will hear each other talk. So, indexed sites. Most of the time, the way we find things on the internet is in indexed sites. And what that means is that you go to Google and you type something you're looking for, and Google says, hey, here's a list of indexed pages that we have. Now, web pages work funny because they are stored on a server, and when you type a domain name, what you actually do is you interact, after all your pings and nonsense like I described is done, you interact with that server's, or the domain rather's, robot script. What the robot script does is prevents you from just punching in a domain and getting into it and doing willy-nilly whatever the fuck you want. So the home page for a site, for instance, when you go to Facebook and you get either the login screen or your page screen, you are looking at what is called the index.html of the site, or the first page. The index page is always the first page that is displayed when you type a web address in. So, I mean, everybody knows what Google's index page looks like, right? One search bar, Google written on it, and that's basically it, you know. So, that being said, wherever you go from the index site has to do with what links are placed on the index site, obviously. If there isn't a link for something on the index site, then you can't click on it. It doesn't matter if it's on the server, because the only thing you can get to is the index site. If a site doesn't have an index site, it's a little bit different. It'll give you the server directory and let you do kind of some weird things, but even that, you know, can be disabled, and it's not really the point. It's just a fun fact. So, the way the deep web works is it's not really a thing. Okay, the deep web is not really a thing. It's a hypothetical idea, because there isn't really such a thing as the deep web. All the deep web means is sites that are not indexed. And what that means is that no matter what search query you type, this site will never, ever come up on your Google search or your Yahoo or whatever the fuck you're using now. So, That being said, a perfect example that we're all familiar with is the Pirate Bay. The Pirate Bay does not index itself. Okay, and I would say probably more people use the internet for the Pirate Bay than probably any other single fucking function. Never mind pedophilia, right? To describe the deep web as being used mostly by pedophiles basically makes you retarded or ignorant by default. I mean, you could use the phrase retarded as well. Something's definitely holding you back from a common thought process that any other person would be able to work their way through. So, I mean, that's definition of retarded in my book. But that's what it comes down to. If you go to Pirate Bay, or better yet, if you go to Google and you search for Pirate Bay, then you are likely to get a website coming up on the front that is on the top link that is Pirate Bay's index page. However, if you search for any single torrent on the Pirate Bay and take note of what its address is, what its title is, etc., 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 and then go to Google and try to produce a Google search query that will take you to that page directly without having to search for it at the Pirate Bay search box, you'll notice that that's not possible. And it's because Pirate Bay doesn't index anything but their index page. That way, there is no such way that you could be typing the title of a movie into Google and accidentally get a link to an illegal download of it. It's not possible. And it's also not possible for you to provide very reliable data that can factually prove that there is any illegal information on the website. By not indexing the site, they get around all of that. And oh, boo-hoo, you've got to actually type into their search bar and look for stuff on their site through their own search bar because Google won't see it because it's not indexed. That's all the deep web means. That's it. You know, anybody who tells you anything different is either lying to you and knows they're wrong, or is just plain ignorant and has no idea. So there you have it. It's just sites that you can't find on Google that are findable by other means if A, someone tells you what their address is and you go to it directly, or B, someone has it set up to where there's some other way for you to access said information. The dark web, however, and that's why there's really only two concepts here and not three, right? Because the deep web and the internet are the same concept. And the reason why there's only one concept and not two is because the dark web is literally the exact same thing as that, but literally a physical, different network. So, I mean, the internet is a group of computers that are all hooked up together that can talk to each other, and the dark web is a group of computers that are all hooked up together that can talk to each other that do not talk to any computers on the internet, more or less. And to give you a better understanding of this, what you could look at is what you would call private gaming servers. So I'll use probably the most common and recognizable title for this as an example. We have World of Warcraft. So most people understand the concept of World of Warcraft. You buy the game, you install the game, you play the game over a long period of time. They charge you per month how long you play the game, blah, blah, blah. If you're not playing the game, you don't have to pay the monthly fee, etc., and they just turn off the service. But because all of your stuff is actually saved on the World of Warcraft server, the inability to log into your World of Warcraft account means you can't access any of your saved data. Now, that being said, it also means you must pay in order to keep playing your guy. So the longer you play your guy, the more inclined a player is going to be to continue to pay into the system. So what some people do is they go out and they buy their World of Warcraft, and instead of installing it and paying a monthly fee to connect to the World of Warcraft server, they just go into the game itself and they make some changes, and they make it go connect to a different server altogether that somebody has set up to run usually on a deep web type of scenario They've set it up to not be indexable and not really be findable other than by people who are looking for this server. And this server will allow you to connect and play WoW for free with no charge. And in fact, they used to exist until very recently. I think they had them all served with cease and desist and shut down. But so therein lies the issue, is that if you have your computer, it's installed with all your standard internet protocols, blah, 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 blah. You hook your modem up, you plug your shit up, you type in google.com, and google.com pops up. However, if you make some subtle changes, you hook your computer up to the exact same wires, and now you type in google.com, and google.com does not come up because you are on the dark web, son. And that's really what it comes down to. It's not really 3 different ideas. It's really only one idea repeated 3 times. So, hope that explains the difference between the internet, the deep web, and the dark web, and hopefully the information propagates itself to where I stop hearing people use these words wrong.